Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. Happy National Recovery Month. My name is Allie. I'm joined here by Jessica and Terry, who are going to introduce themselves shortly. Just want to go over a couple quick housekeeping items. First, for those of you who may not be familiar with us, we are Face It Together, which is an addiction wellness nonprofit, and we provide professional peer coaching to people impacted by alcohol and other drug addiction, and that includes loved ones as well. So if you'd like to learn more, maybe get connected with a peer coach, you can do that at wefaceit.together.org. During today's webinar, please feel free to ask questions using the Q&A button. You can do so anonymously if you'd like. And then lastly, these webinars are a benefit to our Fit at Work program, where we partner with employees to offer our peer coaching as a mental health benefit to employees and their family members. So coaching is completely confidential. So maybe you're watching this and you've seen our materials in your break room or maybe in your onboarding packet. That means your employer believes in this approach and they want you to be well. And so there's no risk to your employment. We're here to help. So please don't hesitate to reach out if we can help. Let's kick things off here. Like I said, it's Recovery Month. This is our tradition. Every September, National Recovery Month, we really lean into the light of recovery. So exciting. So I thought we could just kind of kick things off with some brief introductions. And Jessica, Terry, if you want to just take a few minutes to share a little bit about your journey with addiction. Terry, would you like to go first?
Sure, sure. Well, happy to be here, especially talking about recovery. Recovery is cool in my books. Um, I grew up in a very toxic environment in Oakland, California. Anyone knows anything about the Bay Area, you know what it's like there. So it was just a given of murder, gangs, drive-bys, rape, you name it. And on top of that, my home life was not very nurturing. Um, Physical, sexual, mental abuse started at a very young age. Um, and I was also adopted. And I also knew that I was gay when I was 5, 6 years old. I'm five, I'm six, you know. But I was a very confused child for years because I didn't look like anyone. No one around me really looked like me. Um, so that really made an impact, I think, on my choices in life. I started smoking pot when I was about 11 because it took away all the yucky feelings I was feeling because I didn't understand them. And of course, in our home, no one talked about anything. So you just learn to shove your feelings and emotions down and down and down to the point it's buried, but there's still a little bit light in there, you know. Didn't do well in school, too busy getting high. 70s filled with drama and chaos, hanging with the wrong people. My molestation brought on promiscuous because it was a learned thing. So I'm having sex with much older people because maybe you'll like me, you'll love me. Of course, that never panned out. I was left with my own emotions to have to deal with. Answer: do more drugs. The drinking didn't come in until I was like 19, 20, 21. So I smoked pot and I did cocaine, but pot was never an issue. It was the alcohol and the cocaine. When I was about 22, I went through this really violent rape. Rape is it's about control and violence, and I wouldn't submit. So it was forced upon me to the point of some injury to my head. So now I'm angry at the world. By the time I was 22 years old, I felt as though my environment had just shit it all on me, and I had no answers. No one talked about anything. It made me very, very bitter. And then I discovered crack cocaine when it was the onslaught of it first coming on board in the early 80s. And yeah, it was just riddled in Oakland with that. And it's a very It's a caramis. Wait, I'm looking for it. Oh, anyway. I did things on that drug that I told myself I would never ever do. And I crossed over lines because that's much, it had a stranglehold on me. That came with more dysfunction, drama, chaos. Ended up moving to South Dakota, to Sioux Falls, in December of 1993, minus 26. I will never forget that coming from the Bay Area. It's like, who does this? This is insane, you know? And now I have to throw this in there. I got to Sioux Falls in a manner of making me feel as though I'd be safe if I come. This person would take care of me. It wasn't about a likeness, the sexual part. I mean, you know, I don't want to make that known to this person. She just wanted to help. So I'm like, geez, I'm on the verge of being homeless. So maybe this is my ticket out. That turned out to be very negative, where stuff happened that I had no control over because I don't know anyone in South Dakota at minus 26 degrees. Got through that. So from April, yeah, 93. So from April of 94 through February of 98, I managed to get 7 DUIs. I went to prison twice. Now, here's a question that I ask myself sometimes, is that why did it take 7? Why didn't I figure out after the second one, the fourth one? The first time I went to prison, I didn't. I was very independent, where I didn't need any help. I can do it, you know, and I would get out, jail, prison, start all over again, start all over again. That was my ritual of this and this again. And finally, thank God, at 37 years old, sitting in prison, I had a spiritual awakening in a sweat lodge. And I knew when I left prison, I would never drink or drug again in my life. And I haven't. It's, February is 27 years. And that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But you know, here's the thing, when the desire was lifted, okay, but the work was life skills. That's how do you do this? Well, you give up lying and cheating and stealing and, you know, all those survival skills that I had to wire into my brain at a young age. Now I'm having to rewire it again back into life skills. But I started seeing success. I did. And then I just kept maneuvering through, learn how to humble myself, learn to put the stuff on the back burner instead of running it right now, which is what we do. And I started seeing the gifts that come with recovery. A little here, a little there, here. And I had went out to Rapid City instead of coming back to Sioux Falls because I wanted to get away from those people that were having a bad influence on me. So fast forward, I moved back to Sioux Falls, and things are still going good, no serious things happening. But I noticed along the way, the holidays, anniversaries, parties, pizza, Mexican food, I didn't pick up a drink. I mean, they were all associated with you. You just had pizza, you got to have some beer. So, you know, I made it through bankruptcy. I made it through medical stuff. I made it through, and I'm like, making it through all these things, it's like, you know, well, that's working. And that's what I did. I found Face It Together back in 2009. I had heard about the organization. I was like, man, this is really cool. And they had a volunteer coordinator position open. And I'm like, I'm going to apply for that. That would be cool. And I didn't get the job. But at the same time, I was like, I got to be a part of this. This is just too cool. So I did that for 5 years. And finally came on payroll in 2014. there was a joke that, well, not joke, it was a comment I made with Judge Ripel. She was in a drug court, and I ended up going there every week, every week, every week. And finally, she says to me, "Would you like to be a part of the team?" I'm like, oh, "That's why I've been coming every week because I love it." So I got on the team. But I did. I genuinely just loved because there's nothing out there like Face It Together. I mean, we've grown, in a lot of different ways, but the basic coaching has been the fundamental thing of this organization. And I love it. And I've been with them since
More than
because
more than 15 years now, which is so
yeah, yeah. And it fed my soul, you know. I wrote this quote down. I seen it the other day, and I love it. I'm going to do something with this. It says, "If you know the way, light it for others."
mm,
Yeah, I dig that. You know.
mm,
And that's what we do.
mhm.
That's what we do. We light it for others.
So
The
on
whole.
theme, Terry.
Yeah, yeah. That's what we do. We're recovery coaches, lived experience, been there, done that.
Yeah.
And there lies the initial connection. When you connect, like I get this feeling when I sincerely connect with someone after I share my story with them. In my mind, I'm going, that's a connection. I just feel it. It's like this, just this thing. And I love empowering people to help them understand that they can have a beautiful life. You don't have to stay in this life you're in, but you got to put in the work. And we're not going to just leave you. You come in, you're using, you're not using as much, but that's part of the harm reduction. We don't expect people to just stop. I mean, that's just unrealistic. And then we teach them how to do life skills along the way and build a relationship. So there you go. That's my story.
Thank you, Terry.
Yeah, yeah.
I love we've talked about that many times before, kind of that going from the surviving, lifestyle mindset to the thriving, and how much power there is in that. And I just think about your story and um, how much it's changed, right? Especially you're saying you don't couldn't talk about anything. That's not anything ever, just keep it down. And that is the opposite of who you are now. You shared your story with how many people by this point. So
Yeah.
kudos to
Quite
you.
a few.
Yeah. Jessica, you want to
Yeah.
kind of know your story?
Yeah. Thank you, Terry. I always like hearing yours. Me and Terry actually have a lot of similarities to our story. I also am from the Bay Area, Hayward. Yeah, not a very great place. I miss the ocean. That's probably it. Um, but yeah, quite similar, like I am basically the product of addiction. My mother was married, had a family, got knocked up by her dealer. Husband left her when she had this little white baby. I never really fit in with my mother's side of the family. They're all Hispanic. Not that, I'm not, I'm half, but I was always the little white kid that broke up the happy home. And, it was a difficult place to be in, just brand new in life. And then came along, the sexual trauma and sexual abuse. We went through a lot of that, even just physical abuse. I have an older brother as well. And while he wasn't getting sexually abused, he was getting physically just beat on a constant basis. And so seeing him go through that, we didn't really get beat, but we were sexually abused because we were girls. But watching him go through some of that, I mean, it was really, and at that time he just took a lot of it. That was kind of the common thing. Like we were all just conditioned to accept a lot of our behavior. Um, and so eventually we went to foster care. My father he went to prison, but he only served, I think, 8 months at the time. And so I feel like we were in foster care longer than he was in prison. And so eventually my mother got rights back. She did everything that they said she needed to, but my sister did not want to return. She was older and asked to stay in the foster care system, and so we split. And I didn't see my sister for years, and we were so used to protecting each other, that was like my first big loss. Like I was devastated. Like I just wanted my sister. And so when I went back with my mother, she was still active in her addiction. And the same type of people were around, the same type of men. But this time I just didn't say anything to anyone because I wasn't going back in the foster care system. It was just as bad. And I felt like at least there I had somewhat control, even though I didn't, little minds. Um, but so, eventually I just got kind of used to sexual trauma being a part of life. And so, by the time I was 12, I already had a needle in my arm and was trying to cope. I mean, drugs was just my only way I knew how to cope. It just made me forget everything, numb out. So, um, I was about 12 when I left my mother's home, because I figured if I'm going to go through all this, I might as well be out there doing what I want. Um, it was just a long journey, man after man after man of abuse. I mean, that's all I knew how to pick. So, and there was some big traumas, some little traumas, that I went through, but uh, eventually, I grew up to be an adult, had kids. I did want to be a great mother. I had honestly wanted to do everything that nobody did for me. That was my goals, but I still had this drug addiction on my shoulder that I didn't know how to get rid of. Nobody that I knew went to AA or anything like that. I mean, it was like, what? Nobody's doing that. So I thought of this great idea to leave California. And so we moved out here to South Dakota, in 2012 because I was deathly afraid of my four daughters picking men that I thought would be just like everyone else I was with. My whole goal was to have my kids have a better life. I didn't ever think I needed therapy or classes. I mean, I was going to be fine out in South Dakota because it was going to change everything. Absolutely not. It was not. So we still had the same addiction problems. Me and well, he's now my ex, but he wasn't then. We still had all the same anger issues and lying and cheating and just all of that stuff that we never put any effort into. And it blew up out here, and we kind of learned that it's a little stricter out here. They were not playing. They sent us straight to prison. And so, I did 2.5 years in the women's prison in Pierre. Um, and I did have that aha moment the first time I went, thank God. But I was 34 years old. I walked in prison with six kids out here. And I was like, where am I? This is my life now. Like, oh, what have I done? And so I was not sold on a sober life yet because I did not really know. I mean, I figured I would be smarter, right? When I get out, I'm gonna stop doing like major drugs and I'm just gonna drink or I'm just gonna this. No, none of that's for me. I'm not that type of person. I don't do anything small. So, um, I got 2.5 years straight of sobriety in that prison. And I wish there was a better option for people with SUD rather than prison. That's the national norm, so I get it. And it did serve a purpose for me. And so I'm appreciative. Um, but I would have much rather done treatment and along those lines. put more into me because when I got out, I really, like you said, had no life skills. I had no coping skills whatsoever still. And when I was in prison, it was very easy to just say no because I don't want to be here longer. But when I was out, I didn't have that, right? So it was everywhere. And I was really scared. And so I ran a church. I grew up in a church, so I ran so quick to church. I was like, listen, I need help. You guys have to tell me what to do because I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm very thankful that there were people that stepped up and showed me a better life and showed me like there are alternatives to selling drugs and there are alternatives to just being dumb. Like it took me a while to get into therapy, but once I did, like my therapist is my best friend now. Like she probably gets tired of me.
Shout out to all the therapists. They are
Yeah, yeah,
such
yeah,
heroes.
yeah. Right. But when I was in prison though, I've always been very motherly because I didn't have that, right? So I've always took on the role of mother. When I was in prison in Pier, there was just so many alone and young girls that just had no one. And I mean, I heard story after story. Their mom died of cirrhosis and they lived with their grandmother or and they were, I mean, just so many like trauma-filled stories that it just made my heart bleed. And I really wanted to get out of prison and just be support for someone. I mean, and I knew that was going to be my ticket to staying strong for myself as well. Um, and so I joined up with some people in the community that wanted to start a nonprofit here. And so we helped a lot of people acclimate into the community. And it's just been a blessing to be able to walk beside people. Some of their journeys aren't even finished yet, and we're still working on it. And like I tell them, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm in it for the long haul. So, and then we found Fit found me. It was just a match made in heaven because we were already kind of mentoring people, just not as legit, right? Face It Together is a beautiful organization and just has some of the most amazing and pure intentions that I could really get behind. I looked at other places and stuff and I don't want to be all of that, but Face It Together just has this organic love. It's just natural and we just want to be here. We just want to help. So I was really blessed to be picked up by Face It Together.
Mm, organic love.
Hmm.
Great. Oh,
Yeah, it's awesome.
thank you,
I'm
Jess.
happy you're with us.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. I'm this next question could have many answers, I'm sure. Is there something either of you wish you knew sooner? Whether that's about recovery, um, different support options, things like that. Jessica, any thoughts there?
I have a whole bunch of stuff I wish I would have known sooner. But I think one of the major ones was you don't have to rush everything at once. I mean, I had this idea of what sobriety looked like, right? And I didn't really understand the difference between sobriety and recovery, right? Recovery is what we have to work on every day, all this stuff. And I, at the time, just thought, well, sobriety is going to fix everything, right? And be sober and life's going to be perfect. And that's why I love the like RCI so much. I always joke with people like when I did my practice run on it, I'm like, I'm gonna get an 80 or a 90, right? No, absolutely not, like a 52. Because there's so many aspects of my life that needs attention, even to this day at 9.5 years sober. I have to actively work on things, right? No matter what. That's just who I am. And in the beginning, I was going to fix it all at once, and that's not how it works. So if I could tell 9.5 years ago, Jessica, something, it would probably be just take it one day at a time. we don't have to rush into everything because as long as you're actively working towards it, it's going to get better.
Yeah. And healing takes time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Jessica mentioned the RCI, that's the Recovery Capital Index. So that is an outcomes assessment we use here at Face It Together for those with addiction. Take it at baseline and then every 30 days. And it really covers kind of all areas of someone's life. And it doesn't even ask about, how many drinks did you have last week?
Right.
It doesn't even talk about the drug. It's about, do you feel fulfilled at work? Are you comfortable in your community? Do you have people you can rely on? Like all those things that make up our life. So just wanted to clarify that for folks too who may not know what the RCI is. Terry, anything, well, or one of the main things you wish you knew sooner, maybe.
You know, I seen that question on Slack it's up there, and I was like, huh. So many ways to answer it.
Yeah, yeah.
But because it's near and dear to my heart, once again, I wish that I would have known that my childhood trauma was the onset of addiction.
Mm,
Yeah.
I believe that my life would have turned out different, good, bad, or indifferent, because we don't know.
mhm.
But when you don't know why you're reacting to whatever it may be, you just keep doing it.
Yeah.
And that itself, but then again, I love my life today. I have a pretty good life. Even bouncing through my health stuff, I'm pretty good, you know? And so, yeah, I think that that's a good indication that I was, well, it also taught me how to learn to self-care for me. I never did self-care, which means for me was letting go of toxic people in my life, letting go of my surroundings in my life that were not very good. When people leave drug court, they send them back to the hood
Hmm.
because they have nowhere to go, right? So it's like whatever, but and that's a shame, but that is true. And for a lot of people, how long do they get right back in the mix what they were doing that got them locked up
Mhm,
or on drug court, what have you?
mhm.
Yeah, there's so many answers for that.
I know these are big questions, big
Yeah.
Yeah.
broad questions, but and I'll throw another one right after, which
Yeah.
is what surprised you about recovery, Gary?
Learning to be comfortable in my own skin.
Mm,
That for me was huge because once again, as a child, I didn't look like anyone. Thinking that my trauma, especially the trauma, the sexual part, um, that I just didn't have anything positive to say about myself. It was all negative because even though, it's like, oh, I'm a good person. Why do you do this to me? Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Why? Because you're allowing people to do it.
mm,
Okay. That's why it's going on. But I did not know that. So you're grasping at straws going like, what? What is it? What's wrong? I need answers.
mm,
And they never came. The answer was go get a drink or go do some
Yeah.
drugs. That was the answer,
mm,
right? And but yeah, once I learned to be comfortable with me, things started changing.
mm, mhm. What about you, Jessica? Surprise.
Um, yeah, pretty surprised to it when I did start therapy, how much of healing I needed. And then living in recovery, how much it just got so much easier, like when I started healing.
Yeah.
Because I really had no clue how much it affected me. On a daily basis. I
Mm,
really did. I mean, it affected every decision I made, every choice is, I mean, and then opening up to a therapist and talking to them about the things that I held in for 30 something years, and just the relief and peace I was getting, like I had never had that in my life. Um, and so being comfortable as me was a new thing, you know. Um, as a kid, I always heard, like, you look just like your father, like, you look just like your father, like, over and over and over. And he's a horrible person. I'm like, stop
Oh,
saying that to me, you know. And just as this little girl, like, I hated looking in the mirror. Like, and then after I started healing, like, I just started to love myself even more. And so, just definitely like being comfortable in your skin. Like she said, I mean, it's so wonderful, like you don't have to feel all that stuff.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I heard that too constantly.
Yeah.
Like, just like your dad.
Yeah. I'm like, don't say that.
Especially because his nickname used to be Doghead. And so then I was like, well,
Dog head.
Doghead. Yeah.
Uh, all right.
Um, what is there something that brings you both like the most hope today? Like, where you're at in your recovery journeys. Jessica, you're almost at 10 years. That's amazing. Terry's got over 27. What's bringing you kind of hope and light just day to day now?
Well, I think for me, I've always been that person that was like, it's an injustice, like I went to prison for this and everybody else didn't, like, and so for me right now, like seeing how the government and like agencies and like even the pharmaceutical companies, everybody is like coming together and trying to like solve addiction, even fit, solving addiction. Like there are people that really want to help. And I always thought no one gave a crap about us. Always, and so like just seeing so many people in the community I live in, I mean, in the broader scope of just so many people and opportunities for change. And, I mean, even in the prisons right now, they're doing the MAT stuff. And I mean, things are just improving so much. Like it just brings me a lot of hope. Like I can't wait to see where we are in 5 years, you know.
Hmm. What about you, Terry?
Got these gardeners out here. I'm sorry if the noise may get a little. Um, so I have this new thing that I tried on. I feel it pretty good. Three things a person should have. One, something to do. Work, volunteer, school, what have you. Two, have someone to love. I'm loving on me right now.
Yeah.
And three, something to look forward to. When you have something to look forward to, for me, I'll just speak for myself. It motivates me, and I have setbacks here and there. Like, the whole medical thing I'm going through right now. It's all over the place, and sometimes it wallows me pretty good, but then I bounce back up, and I don't know what each day is going to bring. The next day, I don't know, but I do know what I feel inside of me is that I got to be around to help some folks and meet some people and share the light for others. So that's my response to that.
Absolutely. And what do we have any last thoughts about the light of recovery? Our theme, it's Recovery Month. What else do we want to say about that light and about yeah, kind of the hope that comes from addiction wellness?
Well, I mean, I think the metaphor itself, out of the light, you're coming out of darkness into light. I think is the biggest reflection of what it is.
Mhm.
And when you grasp that, I think it also helps people who don't necessarily have an addiction. Maybe they're a loved one, a friend, or whatever, and they understand that message. We all come together, and it's like all these people, and it's like this is cool. Remember, Ali, a few years back, we'd have a big turnout, like over 200 people. It was monstrous, but everyone was there to support people coming out of the darkness and into the light, changing their lives, making better decisions, having a future. That's what it is. That's, to me, that's what the message of the light means, represents.
Jessica?
Yeah, I kind of just, when I first started in my recovery, I was already sober 2.5 years, but I saw other people, just a few people thriving in theirs, and I was jealous at first, like I'm like, how do I get that? Like, I want that. Like, I want to be one of those people that, is just killing it in recovery because I was so tired of the dark, I wanted that light. And so now for me, just living in that light is important, just having routines and showing people that it's possible and we all can achieve it, like being that person that can, lead by example, like that was really important to me, that light is so bright, I mean, especially coming from where we came from. And so just being able to carry that is really important.
Mhm. Carry
No
that.
pressure.
Yeah, yep, and walk
Right.
alongside other people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you both so much. I don't see any audience questions today. And yeah, I just want to thank everybody here and thank you both for sharing your stories. It's one of my favorite traditions here
Yeah.
during our
This was
webinar.
fun.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
It is Recovery Month, so I got to plug our upcoming events here. So we've got March into the Light, very on theme. It's an early morning Saturday event. We know that's a hard sell for folks. It's the weekend, it's early, but it really is a beautiful representation of everything we've been talking about. We gather, we have breakfast and coffee, share some stories, and then we literally walk together into the sunrise, and it's
Mhm.
very symbolic and meaningful. So we've got those two events, one in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, that's this Saturday, September 6th. And then we've got our Colorado Springs event September 20th, which is also a Saturday. So those events are on our website, wefaceit.together.org. We've also got free tickets on Eventbrite. You get a free shirt, you get some coffee, you get to meet some folks, which is really cool. So before we sign off, thanks again, everybody, for joining. If you have any other questions for us, maybe you want to meet with one of our awesome coaches, please visit wefaceit.together.org. We've got a big green Get Started button in the corner. You can't miss it. There's a web form there you can complete, and we can get in touch and get you started in coaching. So thank you all for being here.